Kundalini happens in stages. These stages can be different for each of us and they can be varying lengths. But from my own experience and having read up on a lot of other people's experiences, these stages seem to be roughly the same in terms of what actually happens in those stages. The first stage is one of the most incredible experiences that you will ever have, where your entire body, your mind is alive. It's like you become your higher self, but you're also still you. And you just view life in a whole different way. The fear, the anxiety is gone, the strong sense of purpose, and it's like you're just buzzing with energy. But I don't mean necessarily, well, I mean physically, yes, but also just, I don't know how to explain it. It's just like bursting with this frequency, I suppose it feels like. But it doesn't last, it shouldn't last. And I don't think we'd be able to function if it did last. So, as incredible as it is, and as grateful as I am that I've had the chance to experience that, I now know that's not the way that we are ultimately meant to live our lives. I'll go into more detail on why that is the case. So, in this initial stage, you want to jump ahead and you're like, this feeling of I have a purpose, like there's so much more to life than we know it, and I need to do something with this immediately. And you do perhaps know more at that point, like you're more connected to your higher self and your perhaps true wants and desires. But those things, they have to work in our everyday life. They have to, because ultimately we live on earth. We are bound by rules, society, by financial situations. Like, we can't just go out and suddenly, I'm going to go and do this now. Because we have responsibilities and we have things that we can't just stop paying our bills. We can't just stop working if we don't have the financial means to do so. But in that initial stage, trust me, you're gonna want to. You're gonna want to just drop everything and do it. And I remember when I first had my awakening, I wrote a book, Awakened by Surprise, and it was like a grounded like I felt grounded at the time, like really. Even though I was reading all this stuff about Kundalini and people were talking about all these difficult things happening, I was like, but that's not happening for me. And I remember one of the things I wrote in the book was about how you don't have to give up your job when you have a Kundalini awakening, even though a lot of people end up doing that. And a month after I wrote the book and it was complete, and I put it on Amazon. It's not there anymore, but it was up there, and I quit my job. You change, you do. It's like that was it changing, and you believe that everything is just going to work out. And sometimes they do. But even with a Kundalini awakening, you still have lessons to learn. You still have challenges that are going to come up. It's not like life just becomes perfect and that everything just falls into place. And I have always kind of had this feeling of things happen for a reason, having trust in the universe. And I remember in the very, very first months of feeling like, oh, I'm going to win the lottery, or everything's going to fall into place and the job's just going to appear that I want to appear and there's nothing to worry about. Yeah, it doesn't work that way. I mean, maybe it will for you. And so whenever I speak to anyone that is in the initial stages of having their Kundalini awakening, is that I honor and listen and respect what they are going through, but I'm also very aware and conscious that what they're feeling in those first months is going to change. Based on my own experience and other people's experience that I have read about and spoken to them about, is that it will change. And so whenever someone comes to me and is very enthusiastic and has all these ideas and things with it, and they tell me they've had their awakening, and then they tell me it was only like a month ago, is that I listen to, their ideas and all the exciting things that they have, and I let them feel that way, and I let them experience it. It's not for me to say to someone, it's going to change. Not in that moment. If you are going through your awakening now, I'm sorry if that's giving you something to expect, but if you have not had your awakening yet, and you're planning to have one, then this is me giving you that expectation of there are stages and it will change, and that kind of honeymoon period doesn't last. After that first stage is passed, the reality kind of kicks in a bit more. It's where you start to have to work through the things that Kundalini has brought up for you. And these could be traumas that you have had in your previous years, worries, anxieties, things like that. It brings them to the surface for you to work through. And depending on where you're at in life, there might actually not be that many, or it might not take that long. For me personally, the main things that I had to work through were career. So I had got very comfortable, even though I didn't love it, in the corporate world. And I feel like Kundalini shook me out of that and showed me that Reiki was the path that I wanted to go down. And then also it made me realize, well, not realize, but it showed me that I couldn't keep living with the anxiety and fear. So I had health anxiety, and I've really worked strongly to improve that. And I feel like my Kundalini awakening really helped me. I think that knowing there is life after death, which you really do feel after a Kundalini awakening, is that the anxiety and health anxiety kind of eases a bit, because you start to believe that things do genuinely happen for a reason. Like if something big or major happens in your life, then it's something that you have chosen before you were born. And so it makes it's still hard, but it makes it a little bit more comfortable to work through, to know that you're learning from this experience. So my anxiety has eased a bit as well with that. I would say those were the two main things for me, and also being able to speak openly. I would say more of an introvert than an extrovert. At times I can be extroverted, but I do like quiet time and my own time writing, researching, things like that. And it's quite shy with expressing things like spirituality. And so when it first happened to me, that was also in the second stage, was coming to terms with spirituality, because I kept rejecting it. I kept going, this can't be real. No. And it was actually Reiki alongside Kundalini that I couldn't deny it anymore. You get to a point where you can't deny it anymore. And that was my second stage of kind of almost, I hid myself away for a lot. Like I really wrapped myself up in cotton wool, and I became really sensitive with other people's energy and who I surrounded myself with, and just really protective. And then the next stage after that was I started to be, once I'd accepted what happened to me, researched it more, protected myself, I began to then be able to open up and be honest with others about what I have been through and what it was like, and my own beliefs. And so now I feel more confident in being able to admit that I am spiritual, that I believe in life after death. I believe that we have a purpose, and I'm no longer going to be scared about what other people say to me about that. And to be fair, out of all of my friends, they all have been so supportive. My friends, my family, my husband, all of them. And it's inside though, before that, I was scared that they would reject me, because I had read stuff online, and I know for some people that their relationships do crumble and they lose friendships. But it depends on where you're at and what friends you have invited into your life and what lessons you have to learn. But I noticed in my third stage of Kundalini was that, yeah, I was able to express myself and be more authentically, genuinely me. And it feels amazing to be able to even speak on YouTube, to be able to do this, to put myself out there, my face. This is me. This is what I believe in. And I'm not scared to show it anymore. And I'm also working more on my purpose. So I feel that when you get to that third, fourth stage, is that a more grounded understanding of what happened. I would say I spent the first year, 2 years of believing that why did this happen to me? What is my purpose? There must be some grand purpose for me to have had this type of awakening. Like, why did it happen? And so much searching, thinking, questioning. And when you get to this kind of final stages of your Kundalini, it's like you finally level out and understand that we do have purposes in life, but it's more to do with your personality, your traits, your behaviors, things like that, rather than like a career. And I'm sure maybe you already know that, but I didn't. Like, I believed that like a career is your purpose. So like, if you invented a cure for something or a light bulb, light or something like that, I thought you were born to create that thing. But with my research, what I have learned and what I am now in this stage of my Kundalini is that it's not, you actually have the freedom to choose what you want to do with your purpose. So you're born into this world with your strong points. Maybe you're good at writing. Maybe you're good at speaking in front of lots of people. Maybe you're really scientific, something like that. Those are the gifts that you were given, but it's down to you what you choose your purpose is going to be. And so I would just sit with that for a minute, because I found that hard to come to terms with. I wanted to believe that we had a purpose that was already written and that Reiki was my purpose and this is it. But what I've learned is that I've, as Laura, have chosen Reiki, and that in reality I could have chosen other avenues and paths that still utilize my skills and what I was born with, but it doesn't have to be a specific thing. And so if you are, for example, really intuitive or have perhaps mediumship type skills, abilities, then it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to then go on to be a medium and do readings for people. But it means that you can use those skills or other skills that you have to fulfill a purpose. Your purpose isn't actually necessarily to be a medium and do readings for people. You choose how you want to use your abilities and those things that you have for your purpose. And to find out your purpose is, well, first of all, you can actually have a look at astrology. So at your astrological charts, you can go and speak to an astrologist, or even don't use AI necessarily for everything, but it can help to speak to that. And like you just need your name, your date of birth, location of birth, and the time that you were born. And you can ask specifically to know what your life lessons are and what your purpose is. And then that can help inspire you to what it is that you want to do with your life, what is going to make you feel happy. And for me, like, it is Reiki. It is like, yeah, it took me years and years and years to figure it out and to realize what the word purpose actually means. And so I kind of went off on a tangent in this video, I would say. But going back to the original point of making this video was to explain that there's different stages. For me, I would say there's 4 to 5 stages of your Kundalini awakening. And just because you've had a Kundalini awakening doesn't mean that there has to be dramatic changes to your life. You're still you. You're the grounded version of the person that you were born. And that as you go through these stages, you will grow and learn, and things will start to fall into place, and you'll start to understand that there's a phrase, I forget the phrase, it's like, after you've had your awakening, you go back to chopping wood. And it's true. We just do it in perhaps with a different viewpoint on life. But anyway, I'll end it there. I've talked a lot about just going off on tangents and things. But I hope this video has helped in some way to let you know what a Kundalini awakening is like. And if you're going through one, and perhaps at a different stage, what you can maybe expect going forward. Well, I will catch you on the next video. Have a great day and see you then.